First of all, how does it feel to be home? Great turnout tonight and a great atmosphere in the Neptune. How does it feel?
It's good to see a full house in Neptune. It's amazing to see a highly educated crowd in Neptune. Our biggest worry here was how far has the sport developed, and are the crowd going to get behind the guys even if it ends up on the floor in a grappling match? And they showed tonight there was 1,600 plus in here tonight, and 1,600 plus of highly educated MMA fans. So good, very good.
It feels like this is the new cast of guys to get excited about. At least that's the way it's been put to us. This could be the next generation of Irish fighters going to the UFC. Is that how you feel about it? This crop will be touring around the UK and Ireland and will eventually kind of build up that buzz for them?
Yeah. We'll announce, I think Monday or Tuesday, we're going to announce 4 dates for the island for 2020. And I believe the crop you've seen tonight, we're going to develop them, and they're the guys that are going to sell the arenas out. Everyone did well tonight. We're looking forward to already where we're going to position them and who we're going to match them with and stepping them up. So we'll announce all the shows maybe Monday, Tuesday, a couple of I's to dot and T's to cross. And we're going to make a big impact and bring the platform back that the guys had in 2010. It takes time to realize, I think, amongst the industry, the clubs and the fighters, I think it takes time looking back what they had then, what they didn't have in between, which is why there's no UFC fighters now, and what they're going to get back now. It'll be pretty crystal clear in 18 months why this whole scene is going to turn UFC again, and we're going to play a big part in that.
Just with the, just finally from me, obviously you spoke before this card and you said that Belfast would make sense next. Big win for Rhys McKee, big win for Joe McColgan, both big fan bases up there. Is that logically the next step for Cage Warriors in Ireland?
Yeah, we've already booked 2 dates at the SSE Arena. It's done. We're just waiting for confirmation on other dates, on other venues, and we'll announce the whole thing.
You asked there, or you spoke there about bringing the next crop through, and back in 2010. But back then you had basically the pick of the crop. You had the Carl Pinters, the Conor McGregors, and all them. And now it's a very different situation where there's big competition with the new up and coming prospects. Do you think that's going to make it more difficult for you, who likes to bring people through and get them to the UFC?
I think the ones that want to go to the UFC, it'll be crystal clear where they're going to go. I don't believe, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, I don't believe there's competition for what we do. We developed a talent that has that dream of the UFC. If they don't have that UFC dream, then they go somewhere else. But as long as that dream is available to them and it's still within reach, it's crystal clear where they're going to go. There's no competition. Nobody steps in and does what we do. The pure machine that we put behind these guys and the platform we give them, it makes them superstars. It's a 50-50 partnership. It's a team. It's teamwork. The fighter, the platform, everything goes in tandem.
I suppose just on Cork here, it'd be remiss of us, I suppose, not to mention it, how great that crowd was tonight. Having been at a few Cage Legacy cards as well, the crowd here is always phenomenal. For you as a Cork man, obviously, is it something you want to do, maybe a yearly thing, come back to Cork over and over again? Yeah,
I'd like to keep something going on in Cork, whether it's a Cage Warriors Academy, or whether it's a Cage Warriors numbered show. The issue down south obviously is venues. There isn't that many venues to choose from. Neptune, we just about make it work. I know that there's planning permission been approved for a 4,000-seater arena on the Southgate Bridge. They've had that plan in a year and a half, but they haven't stuck a shovel in the ground yet. So hopefully they'll get off their asses and stick that shovel in and get it done, so we can actually put on some big shows here.
Last thing for me, a lot with Irish cards, and there hasn't been many, you mentioned it earlier, over the years, has been because of the regulation here. And I just want to ask you about that, you regulating a card here, we have had the IMMAA for the last few years. Were they involved in regulating here, and what provisions did you take to have a card on here?
All our fighters are safe MMA Mark 5 cleared. They've all had brain scans, they've all had their bloods, they've all had their MRIs, MRAs, you name it. Every fighter on the card tonight was safe MMA cleared. Once that's done, there's nothing else for me to do. There is nothing else and nobody else to come anywhere near me from a legality point of view and tell me what I'm doing cannot happen or is wrong.
Did you hear from him? Was there anything said or anything asked of you?
Nothing, not a word.
You refuse to work with him based on the fact, as you said to me before this event, that you see the head of that body, John Kavanagh, as a promoter, and therefore he shouldn't be able to interfere with your promotions in Ireland.
There's a serious conflict of interest when you've got a guy who's a promoter heading up what's supposed to be a startup governing body. That guy will have the pick of what he wants for his promotion, and he can very easily cause problems for other promotions if he doesn't like, because he's a president of a governing body. Until that sorts itself out, they need government behind them. If the government is not backing this, and it's not law for me to do what they're going to try and push on us, I won't be working with them, no.
Graham, congratulations on a fantastic event. McKee called for a title shot there. How realistic is that proposition?
He's that win has put him into those talks. We've got to sort out what's going on in that division. We got one last big show in November 22nd in London, where there's a number of title fights on there. Once that show is done, myself and Ian will sit down for 2 weeks and we'll go through the entire roster and situation of how it's going to play out for 2020. But Reese is definitely up there amongst those talks.
Can I ask about the status of the relationship between Cage Warriors and welterweight champion Ross Houston at the moment? Yeah. He announced the grappling match on Polaris, then announced his distaste on social media with the way that Cage Warriors had kind of assessed the situation. What's your take on that, and where do you currently stand with Ross?
It's a very simple thing. Cage Warriors champions do not compete outside of the organization. The guys know what they're getting involved in. The guys know what they're signing. It doesn't happen. They went and did that grappling competition on another combat promotion without coming to us and checking if that was okay. It's not okay. He's a current champion. He goes and loses in that, his stock goes down the toilet at Cage Warriors. We're not going to allow it happen. If you're not a champion and you're a rostered fighter and you want to fight on Polaris, we have absolutely no problem with that. If you're a champion, it's 100% no.
Yeah. Graham, just a word on John Mitchell of Cork by making his debut tonight. Not a bad way to make your professional debut.
Yeah, super debut from John. He made I think he outclassed Eric on the feet. He chopped away at that lead leg. He hit some really nice jabs and just kept moving. Whether that was a game plan or whether that's his game, we'll find out in time. But super performance and a good debut win for him on a big platform like that. A lot of guys making their debut on a stage this side, and he was on the main card. They can get an adrenaline dump. It can hit him quite quick, but he dealt with it well. What about Ian Gary? The guy can talk, huh? Ian's showing superstar status, man. He weathered a bit of a storm from Figlac there, took him down, put him to sleep. I think Ian could be the type of guy, Ian and Reese, type of guys that could very well do and probably will sell out arenas in their hometown with the PR machine and Cage Warriors puts behind them. And that's something we look at.
You see him like a Pimblett in Liverpool or a Jack Shaw in Wales, the two of those guys combined kind of drive the interest here in Ireland?
Yeah, I think they will 100%. Like I said, I've said this before, I've gone on record saying this. Reese with a win tonight catapults his career into serious talk situation, He stepped up to the welterweight division. He's took out a big name in Hakan quite easily. That was a really stiff jab that he dropped Hakan with. And he's in those title talks. Whether it's next, I don't know. There's a lot going on in that division, but he's certainly up there, yeah.
Thanks, Graham.
Great. There's been a lot of talk, or a lot of back and forth between Joe McColgan and Paddy Pimblett online in recent times. So much so that Paul Hughes also has been calling out Paddy Pimblett's teammate. Do you have any interest in making that Pimblett-McColgan fight?
That's a tough fight for us to make. Pimblett's got double the amount of fights of Joe. Joe's wanted to fight champions from the day he signed with Cage Warriors. Even that 1 or 2 fights in, we were trying to tell Joe, mate, you got your 3 fights in. Slow down, because you go in and you need time to develop here, right? So you go in 2-3-0 and you call out a guy that's in title talks and you beat him. You're losing a hell of a lot of development time. Those minutes, and any pro fighter will tell you this, the minutes in the ring or in a cage, they're valuable times that you need to have to develop your career. And like I said, Joe will ask for a champion tomorrow. He'll probably want Paddy tomorrow. It's something we got to just sit down and talk about, man. These guys, they cause so much problems for me and Ian. They go on Twitter or they go on Facebook and they cause absolute fucking havoc amongst each other. And then we're the ones that have to deal with it. And then when we don't go with what's going on, all the journalists and you guys give us fucking shit because we won't put the fight on. And, you know, we have a bigger picture on a longer road to play with. And hopefully it keeps you guys entertained what we're doing anyway. So, yeah.
Graham, who was your performance of the night this evening? If you had to pick one.
Probably Gary. Like, the classy performance, went out and did it. Reese, you know, Decky on the undercard had a solid performance against Antanas. You know, Mitchell, where do I stop? Yeah. You know, it was a good night for Irish MMA, boys. You know, for the boys, for Cage Warriors, for the show itself, it was a good night for Irish MMA.
Graham, just one from me. So as the year winds down, I know you've still got the Indigo card in a couple of weeks. How would you rank 2019 as amongst the other years at the helm of Cage Warriors? And is there a personal highlight for you that stands out?
When I'm putting the spot with these questions on personal highlights and personal fights and stuff, I always struggle to pin one as such. But I think fight-wise, McColgan and Mehdi at the BT Sports Studios Unplugged, that was a fight that sticks in my head, that pops up when you ask me that question. As regards 2019, I couldn't answer the question, what is the biggest highlight that I would look on the organisation? It's been a busy year. We've done, I think, 12. Dalby and Houston is, there you go. That was my point exactly. I get put in the spot, and then I'm like, Dalby Houston, yeah, at the Night of Champions. But we've done 10, maybe 12. Is it 12 shows? It's all rolled into one for me. 12 shows this year. We've got 15 next year. We don't kick off till the end of February. We're not going to do anything in August. So that's like 15 shows in 10 months that we'll be doing. So we've got a busy schedule. It's hard to keep track of more.
Could a rematch of that fight, the Joe McColgan fight, be in Belfast maybe?
Joe McColgan and Mehdi? Yeah. I don't think so. I think those guys kind of, they've had that scrap. I think if there was a rematch there, it would be belt status maybe. Those guys are going to be superstars in their own right, and I don't think they need to rematch right now. We can build them up, and if they want to have it down the line, they're still with us, fair enough, but I think they're okay the way they are.
Graham, one last one from me. At Cage Warriors 102, you announced that Cage Warriors were going to be going to Australia this year and 3 shows next year. What's the kind of current status of that venture, and is that something you're still planning to get involved in?
We're still planning and working on it. We had some stuff we're doing there, so the shows that we've got on in Europe right now are kind of taking a little bit of precedence. So we'll finish a lot of that stuff and a lot of those strategic planning in December once we get this November 22nd show finished. Yeah.